5, 4, 3.
Two, one. Gary, you have no friends? Nobody want to sit next to you? It's like parting to the Red Sea here, and yours is the one guy standing in the middle.
He's like in the movie Annie. He bought all those seats. Okay. Very good.
Scott, Gary needs a friend.
Welcome everyone to the Board of Commissioners for Washington County, Utah, November the 19th, 2024. We appreciate you coming to go through this rather short agenda, 40 items. We hope you all stay to the very end. Now, as we go through this, we appreciate you being here. We'll begin with an invocation by Russ Moody. Yes. He is the co-director of the St. George Area Communications Council, a very important position for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Following Russ, we'll have a pledge by, I believe, is it Paisley? Are you doing it? Oh, well, they have it backwards here. Okay, so Bridget. Okay, we'll have you come up and do that. Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful to gather here this afternoon in this beautiful community, in this beautiful location. We are so thankful for our commissioners and to be able to meet here today. We pray for thy Spirit to be upon these wonderful commissioners, to be with and bless them in their service. We pray for a spirit of peace to rest upon all those attending this meeting today, and for a spirit of inspiration and discernment to rest upon our commissioners, that they may be guided through the many issues that they are asked to face, that they may be guided and inspired to come to those conclusions that would be a blessing to all of us here that live in this beautiful community. We're so grateful for their service and pray that thou would bless and prosper them for their service and guide and direct all those who participate in this meeting. And pray for these things in the name of the Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Russ, stay there for just a sec, would you?
Sure.
Tell us about the Communications Council and how you benefit the entire community as well as the Interfaith Council.
You bet. The Communications Council is tasked with two very important things: to helping bring the Church of Jesus Christ out of obscurity and to develop relationships within the community that we're in. And so those are wonderful tasks. We're also members of the Interfaith Council, and so we have the joy of being able to attend every faith here in this community. So each Sunday, not only do we attend our own church meetings, but we get to attend the meetings of all the other faiths and join with them in worship. And so that's a great blessing. We're also tasked with bringing about events that are not specifically ecclesiastical to the Church of Jesus Christ. For example, the Light the World giving machines come through our council. And so we just had our ribbon cutting ceremony yesterday. And so you have 2 weeks, by the way, if you want to participate in the giving machines. They're over in the mall. And it's a wonderful opportunity to respond to that spirit of giving that we all feel at this time of year. Did that give you a little...
Yes, and it's a heartwarming experience to hear how many people around the world respond back to simple gifts, whether it's chickens or goats or shoes or emergency kits and things that are very reasonable but have a lot of meaning at Christmas time. And it's not a profit-making thing. In fact, if anything, it costs money, as many churches benevolently have those programs. Give us some insider information, how you were responsible for 2 temple open houses and then eventually dedications. How many toured members of your faith and others each temple? You might know that number.
670,000 people came through the St. George Temple during the open house. It was a magnificent event, and people of all faiths and backgrounds came. It was a fantastic experience.
Do you know the Radcliffe's number?
I don't know that number. The Wilsteads oversaw that open house. We oversaw the...
But 670,000 is quite a few people. That was the largest
in the church so far. But I have a feeling the Salt Lake Temple will probably outdo us here in a couple of years.
Only if they have bad weather.
That's right.
Keep your record. Thank you for your time.
You bet. By the way, we've sold over 500 chickens as of right now. I just checked the numbers before we came. So if you want to buy some chickens to help those suffering in poverty on the other side of the earth, please come.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Russ.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Stevens, which his undercover name is Sloan. That's
Face the flag. Repeat after me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that and your service. We begin now with our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests an item be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as follows. A, consideration of auditor approved claims for payment for October 16th, 2024 through November 19th, 2024. Item B, consideration of commission meeting minutes of October 15th, 2024. C, consideration of special commission meeting minutes of November 6th, 2024. D, consideration of commission work meeting minutes of October 29th, 2024. E, consideration of administrative adjustments of personal property. F, consideration of administrative adjustments for real property. G, consideration of cancellation of interlocal cooperation agreement for building inspection services. And H, consideration of renewal of memorandum of understanding for joint law enforcement.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second on the consent agenda. No apparent division of those items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a couple of changes to our regular agenda. One is that the Board of Canvassing, item 1, consideration of the canvass of the November 5th election. I'd like to move that to the end of our agenda. And the second part of that motion is that we place number 24, item 24, which is the Hurricane Fire Special Service District item, that we place that as the 4th item on our agenda. And our agenda would shuffle.
I would second that with one more friendly amendment that we strike item 3 and move that to a future commission meeting minute, which is the emergency services report of the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
And I'll accept that amendment.
Okay, friendly amendment accepted. So technically, the 24th item will become the 3rd item on our agenda.
Correct.
And all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, we have a special presentation at this time, which we would like to make. It's for honoring Ron Kundick, and I think, are you speaking to that, Victor?
Yeah, I'll speak to it, and then we can all kind of join in. You know, we have so many great people in this county, and we have some that just really go above and beyond. And so for anybody who might not know, Ron, he moved back to the area and moved to Silver Reef, and he was asked by some good citizens if he wouldn't help create a nonprofit to work on the Silver Reef Historical Society. And so he did. You're a lawyer by trade, right, Ron? And so he did such a good job on writing those bylaws and setting up that nonprofit. And then he was asked if he wouldn't volunteer and lead out on that. And so under his leadership, there's just been, tremendous work, volunteerism, as they have really kind of resurrected and rescued an important chapter of history here in Washington County. And I want to speak just for a moment to Silver Reef, because we have a lot of new residents who might not be aware of how important Silver Reef, that sits just over and around Leeds, was to the settlement of this county. There's a lot of people that would say, historians that would say, that the most important thing that happened in Washington County was when the pioneers were able to successfully divert water out of the Virgin River at the Washington Dam. That allowed agriculture to really start here. Prior to that time, there'd been about 3 unsuccessful attempts. But I'd say that the next most important thing was discovering silver in sandstone at Silver Reef. And the reason why that was so important to the history of our county is up to that time, we had no hard currency in this area, really. We had no money. So it was kind of like, it would have made a great reality show, maybe like a Survivor show, with the pioneers here surviving off of what they could grow and produce. But Silver Reef, that started in the 1870s and lasted into the 1880s for a short period of time, really provided what this county desperately needed and what the people needed. And there was kind of this strange relationship at first, as you had the pioneers who were here seeking almost a utopia type of experience. And then, of course, all of these miners that flocked into Silver Reef. And I love to go to the cemetery. I'd encourage people to go to the historic cemetery and read some of the names on that and where they're from. You know, they're from England and Ireland and around the country. But we were thinking about what we could get Ron to just say thank you for all of these years of service. And we feel that he probably does have a few plaques, and we didn't want to just give him one more plaque. And so we started looking around, and we were able to find on the internet, it's great, you can find an original share in the mining company. And this mining company, and I'll ask Ron a question, this is the Stormont Mining Company. And this, from reading in it, the Stormont, and what I don't know is if there was 2 mining companies or just one. I know for sure that the Stormont was the mining company that ran Babylon Mills, which is down on the other side along the river, and there was a community down there about 25. And you can imagine why they called themselves Babylon when they were living right here among God's people in Zion. And I think it was just to let everybody know that they were here and they were just a little bit different. It is interesting in reading some of the history is that over time, the relationship changed where the original settlers, the LDS people, became very friendly, more friendly than I think they were at first with the miners, and they started to develop a relationship that was very beneficial to both of them. But anyway, Ron, I don't know, was there 2 mining companies, or was Stormont the real mining company?
5.
There were 5. Could you please come up and just,
Give us a 1-hour history.
yeah, give us a history, talk a little bit about Silver Reef for a minute.
Well, thank you. There were actually five mills up here, and of course there were many miners, maybe 200 or 300 miners, and not only those from Europe, but we had a strong Chinese community here also that provided services. They didn't mine, but they provided services. And as you mentioned, this essentially was a barter community at the time the mines opened. You exchanged your tomatoes for peaches or whatever. And so you had no means of getting hard cash in here for the people so they could get things outside of this area. And so the miners were making $4 a day. And that was just so much money. I mean, you could be working on a ranch for maybe $10 a month and room and board. So when you compare that, and they had no place to spend their money except the local farmers, so they started buying fruits and vegetables from the farmers, and also they were running teams of horses and things of this nature. And this was really the commencement of a changeover, I think, from the barter community to a currency, to a hard currency community. And of course, many of those folks didn't stay very long. The price of silver dropped. But for about 10 or 15 years, when it was in its heyday out there, it was producing not only silver, but helping these communities to change. Yeah. And it's been our pleasure to dig out this history. We've found over 300 biographies now of people who lived there, and we've done the research on them. And we still get people coming in and say, oh, my grandfather or my uncle or somebody was here as a miner or lived here. And it's just been a real pleasure to dig into this and try to preserve it before it disappears. And I want to take this time to thank the commissioners for their help. This is the kind of thing that's kind of grown day by day, but it needed shall I say, a big brother or somebody to look after this, to help us. And we've had such delightful help from all of you, and these buildings now have been preserved, and the remaining ruins up there have been preserved, and I think we've got people who now understand a little more about what happened and can appreciate what the county has done to preserve this for everybody. And I thank you personally for the help you've given
Well, we
us.
couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, I feel like you've done
Others.
the work and we've been your cheerleader. If we have, you've just been great.
Well,
How many
it's-
years have you been at this?
Well, we started in 2013
Okay.
with about 5 or 6 people in Leeds, and it's mushroomed. And of course, the real work's been done by the volunteers and people who have stepped forward and done it. I've just been sort of encouraging it as it goes on.
Well-
Mr. Chairman, I think first of all, as somebody whose family was some of those very early pioneers, they talk about the discovery of silver as it took a tough person to try and live here back in the 1850s and 60s. But until silver was discovered, it was always going to be tough. So as Commissioner Iverson said, that was a huge thing. And anybody who's enjoying living in Washington County now really can look to that moment and the water as what set Washington County as a place that may someday be as desirable as it is now. But the other thing I want to say specifically about you, Ron, is that, especially in our roles here, but I think for most people, they understand that people say, somebody ought to do this. Somebody ought to take care of this park. Somebody ought to do something.
Yeah.
But very few people ever do, right? I'm too busy, but somebody should, right? And on this one, with something that was literally decrepit and falling down and needing a champion, you stepped up and did what somebody needed to do. And I think for everybody in the future and now, just owes you a tremendous debt of gratitude and thanks for helping organize all those volunteers and other people that were there with you. But instead of somebody being passed the buck, you picked it up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sid?
We'd like to get a picture. Your
One
beautiful
second.
wife, Patricia, I know that she's been there the whole time as well. I think when I was out there, we had an event and you were doing the kind of the guided tour, and you were telling the history so perfectly. And
She's our curator and does everything else too.
yeah,
Well, there's a couple of interesting things on this certificate that you'll see, but others would like to know. Well, it's been 141 years since William Wick spent $100, because it was $1 per share, and bought 100 shares of a $500,000 offering, a capital raising, which at the time when you consider that's quite a bit of money. So they had faith they were going to find at least $500,000 worth of silver. But what's interesting is that they've got 2 sort of nymphs that are in their artistic parcel in there, and you've got one of them standing on a silver American eagle from that vintage. So it's kind of an interesting thing that the very document shows that silver was what they were after there. So quite interesting. We're going to come down and take a picture with you if that's all right.
It was great. Thank you.
Here you go. Why don't you hold that with your dear wife, and we'll stand. Mayor, come on in. Wonderful. Well, we appreciate you coming, and I remember playing all over that area until they said, "Oh, these are dangerous. We better start closing off these shafts." But it was a lot of fun thinking every little shiny thing was silver that we'd find. So, all right, well deserved. Our next is also a presentation for a longevity award to Rena Spurlock, who out of the recorder's office, we just met there today, and actually holds the distinction of the gold medalist for being there the longest. And we couldn't help but want to give you this longevity award. But Gary, will you come up with Rena and say a few words about how she makes you look good?
That's impossible to make me look good. First of all, I wanted to say how grateful I am to be able to come to a public meeting where we start with prayer and a pledge. So thank you. Yeah, it's my opportunity and actually a privilege to introduce Rena and talk a little bit. I've never done this before, so I'll just go impromptu. But I want to introduce Rena to you. She is an incredible asset to Washington County and to the recorder's office. She started as a part-time employee about 20 years ago. And it wasn't very long before Russ Schertz, my predecessor, could see the value in Rena and offered her a full-time job, and she has excelled from that point forward. She is the glue that holds the recorder's office together, and everyone in the recorder's office will admit that, including me. So I'm very appreciative of Rena. You will never find anyone that has a stronger work ethic, more integrity as an employee and as a person than Rena. So I'm just so grateful to her personally as the recorder to know that I have an employee as quality as she is there and making me look good. And so I appreciate Rena, and she deserves everything that she gets from this award, whatever that is.
And before we go down, Mr. Chairman, we mentioned this a little bit today when we met with the recorder's office, but Rena, there was kind of a perfect storm. It was the busiest, most hectic time the recorder's office had ever had. Gary was coming in, there were people retiring. There was just the workload had gotten so much. And I don't know that we could have made it through without Rena's hard work. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you lost a couple years of your life off of, that 6 months of time as we were trying to get people trained and back in. But like I told you today, I will always appreciate what I feel like you did for Washington County and the recorder's office to help get us through those. It was a pretty rough time. The citizens didn't notice because,
No.
it all got done, but
Yeah,
I knew what you did. So.
And Victor, I appreciate that because it wasn't 6 months; it was closer to 18 months or 2 years. And it took me a while to realize how this was all happening, and come to find out that Rena was coming in on weekends and working weekends without being asked.
Yeah.
She just knew what had to be done, and she stepped up and did it. And so, yeah, pretty
Commendable.
incredible.
Well, we'd love to join you. Unless, Rena, do you want to say some words? Come on. 20 years. If you've got words left, you've been here 20 years.
I appreciate all the
Come to the mic.
I appreciate all the kind words. I really do. I've really enjoyed working here. And I've worked with just some incredible people. And it's been a great experience. So thank you.
Well, I met with Russ Schertz once, and he said, I can't live without Dixie up front, and then I can't, he was breaking down the recorder's office and everybody's responsibilities. And then near the end, because we stood up and then we went around and I met you when I first was elected, and he said, but let me show you who I really can't do without.
Really?
And
See, I
he
know-
took me right to you.
That's surprising to me because I had never heard that from him.
Yeah, oh
So
no.
he was probably saying it to other people, but not to,
Yeah.
to myself.
Well, he didn't
So-
want you to get,
Yeah, big head.
oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah. We'll be happy to give you your 40th year longevity award in 20 years. No, thank you so much. At this point, we are, again, we're going to discuss item 24, which has been moved by motion to the next item, which is 3. So it reads as follows. Consideration of resolution number R 2024-3397, a resolution accepting the recommendation of the Administrative Control Board of Hurricane Valley Fire Special Service District and adopting a final property tax rate for the district for the 2025 calendar year. Devin.
Yes, Commissioner, so this is a resolution, actually the fire district passed a resolution, this would have been back in October. Some in the audience might be wondering why are we here at the county commission level, because the fire district has its own board and it's comprised of elected officials from the different communities that are served by the district. The county commission has delegated operational and management authority to the board, so all of those matters are decided and cared for by the board of the district, with the exception of property tax. And so that matter has to come to the county commission. And so the recommendation the reason it was framed as a recommendation was for that reason. The district didn't have power to levy this tax. And so the recommendation came to the county commission. And that's what is before you, commissioners, this is a resolution that you could either adopt or deny the recommendation. But this resolution would carry out that requested tax increase by the district.
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if we could have Mayor Hoster speak to it. He's the chairman of the board as well. Like Devin said, now, the communities came to the county a number of years ago and asked that a special service district be created. I believe that up to that time, they were just operating on interlocal agreements between the different communities. And so at that time, the law read that with elected officials representing the different communities, it wasn't necessary that the county, once again, take on this authority. But then the law was changed, and we've had quite a vibrant discussion prior with the State Tax Commission on why it should be coming back to the county when we are neither over the budget nor over the operations of the fire district. And so it is kind of clunky and a little awkward that we're not over those things, and yet we're being asked to review this. But with that, I wonder if we can have Mayor Hoster speak a little bit to it.
Thank you. Council, Commissioners, I really want to stress gratitude for the consideration of this recommendation. As the fundamental essence of government, protecting life, protecting liberty, and protecting property, that essence needs to be done with the appropriate personnel and equipment, especially in our district. In this past year and a half, we've gone through and scrutinized this budget incredibly tight, compared it to others across the state, hired a new chief, brought in some additional safeguards to make sure that we're not going over any kind of spend that we would have to do. And unfortunately, we have experienced an incredible amount of growth within Washington County. To provide those essence or those essential components of government, we do need the essentials that we've got there. We've got to pay for them. We do need the personnel to make sure that our community is safe, as so are the personnel who are providing those services.
I have a few questions. Mayor, thank you for that. In your personal experience, you have a fair amount of work experience in fire and EMS.
Yes, sir.
Correct? So this is not something new to you to try and figure out, like, what is fire? How do you put it down?
Correct.
We have been discussing this. I've been in office for 3 years. This has been a constant discussion with Hurricane Valley Fire and the services they provide to a very, very broad geographic area. I mean, you cover a lot of area. I think that there's one thing, we talk a lot here at Washington County about the lowest tax rate, highest bang for the buck, which we just received again, number one in the state, right? And part of the reason for that, and whenever we meet with our employees as well, is because there's only one way for government we can't sell more product, we don't have any more widgets, right? And so the only way to increase budgets when, not that you want to, but when tires cost more, fuel costs more, equipment costs more. Commissioner Iverson and I were on a call earlier today. An ambulance that cost $200,000 5 years ago is now $350,000, $400,000 for the same exact ambulance. It's 100% in 5, 6, 7 years, depending on what equipment you get on it. So you have to, you don't just get to magically create money, and you can't sell more, you can't charge your customers more. The only way you can do it is on the backs of the taxpayers. You try and recoup, whatever fees you can off the medical transport, everything you can, with the insurance. But I commend the district for doing what we talk about all the time, which is that we are unwilling to put an additional tax burden on the people who, it hurts at the cash register, it hurts at the gas pump, it sucks to try and afford things in America right now. It is very expensive. And so we don't want to put that burden on until you absolutely have to. You've gone a couple of years now, as I understand, borrowing from savings and draining down your savings, because it's hard to ask the taxpayers to say, hey, I need more money, when you're kind of sitting on money, right?
Right.
But you've done, I think, in my opinion, the best you possibly can on that. I really appreciate, I know we went through a truth and taxation, or you went through a truth and taxation hearing a year ago. That was a brutal process. We were there and watched it as your board held that meeting. But for you and the other 7 members, it's an 8-member board, right? 9.
I believe it, yeah, 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 on the list here. For the work that you did going through that, some have requested or urged us to change your resolution here. Not your resolution, but the outcome of it, and to change the tax rate. And I'm just making the public comment that I'm unwilling to do that for my one-third here. Because I don't know your budget as well as you do. And we believe that the best government is the one closest to the people, the one closest to the issue. You have dove into your budget. You have gone through everything. You've used your experience. I'm a finance guy. I'm not a firefighter nor a paramedic. So for us to change it on the fly, commissioners, right now, I think is to say, you know what, we actually know in the few minutes that we've had and the experience of discussion, we know your budget better than you do. So we're just going to say no, and we're going to set it. You set your budget. You have an independent board. I agree that I think the state law is a little messed up, that this has to come back to us when you're all elected individuals. I'm looking at a list of people that are all elected on here: city council members, mayors, city council members. I mean, you're elected by your citizens, and so I appreciate the work, and I, for one, think that we take the recommendation, the resolution of this board who's done their homework, and I don't think I can say better what their budget should be than they have.
Well, you're saying they're boots on the ground, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're not in the field. We know what things cost. We also know that we ask everyone, your chief and all of the that work with him, be very careful. You can overspend, but this is fire. This is life and property. This isn't saying, oh, we ought to have a bigger Christmas tree in the middle of town square, whatever. This is other than those expenses. So Commissioner Snow is exactly right. You're right there. You're on the front line. So.
And I'd just add, Mr. Chairman, as well, that under state code, incorporated cities are responsible for essential services of medical and fire. And so, but it works better, and we have a long tradition in this county of working together, which is the reason the county, at the request of the cities, formed this fire district. And I'll echo everything that was said by Commissioner Snow. I will say, Mayor Hoster, that I really appreciate all of your hard work as chairman of this board. I feel like it's been 5 years that the district has been asking us, to consider a tax increase with them, and going back and forth and having those discussions. And I really appreciated when you came onto the board, and I think your first night was the Truth and Taxation hearing we had a year or so ago, which was a great night for all of us. But at any rate, knowing that you were able to go through the books with the chief and with the administration and have an appreciation for where they're at, and like Commissioner Snow said, we don't like preemptive tax increases in this county. We like, the need needs to be there because everyone is feeling the crunch. And I do feel confident that your budget and operations is running correctly. But then again, you know, I'm not the chairman of the board, and I'm also not the chief. So, but I have confidence in you, and I have confidence in the great people that work in your district, that you've come up with the right numbers. And I am one of those that get to pay for this, so
you
I'm
live in
looking forward
this
to it. You know, so.
Mayor, in your expert opinion, is there any fluff in this budget?
Absolutely not.
Are you using is this budget cover the bare minimum of what it takes to provide the services and nothing extra?
Yeah, you know, that direct answer also involves some of our personnel because we're so bare and trying to keep the essential paramedics on our team has been a real struggle. And so we've also got their commitments. We'd love to be able to pay them more to keep them competitive with us, but they're even putting in, you know, their blood, sweat, and tears to try and keep our department and our community safe. We wish we could do more, but we've gone to the level of where we can.
That's it for me then, Mr. Chairman. I'm satisfied.
Very good.
My rough estimate is that the population that's served by the district has doubled in the last decade.
That's about
And if somebody says, my house is fine, it's within 50 feet of the hydrant, I have a 50-foot hose, we'll be fine. But if I build a barn that's 100 feet from the hydrant and my 50-foot hose isn't going to get there. So really what's happened is Perkins grown, leads everywhere, and you need a longer hose, and that's what you're buying.
And we're really paying for those people to be there as soon as the emergency happens. Seconds count in these situations, and so I think we've done that correctly.
Very
Okay.
good. Well, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2024-3397, a resolution accepting the recommendations of the Administrative Control Board of the Hurricane Valley Fire Special Service District.
And I'll second that
adopting the final property tax rate.
And I'll second that motion, and again, with the thanks to you and the board for all the hard work you did and your people.
Yep. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
No declining vote.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate all your support.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, and the rest of the crew.
Yep. All right. Next is item number 4, technically, consideration and ratification of purchase request. Ray. Ray, before you start, Ron and Pat, one thing I wanted to mention is that we failed to say is that that's a unique gift, and to the brains behind it all, we have Sarah, Nicole, and Jayanne, who thought that would be cool, and they found it and displayed it properly, and I wanted to give them credit. I am too. Very cool. Thank you. Okay, Ray, sorry about that.
Okay, the first thing we have here is a ratification. This requisition was done, give or take, about a month ago, for an original amount of $26,900 to do the sewer repair for the Hurricane Library. And when we received the final billing, we realized that there was a miscommunication in which bid was to be used for these services. And so what's happened is it added $8,100 to the total bill for the full repair, for a total of $35,000 instead of the $26,900. The service has been completed successfully and the vendor has been paid in full. Okay, on to the regular requisitions. The first one is for the roads department. This is for the distributor time for spraying the chip seal oil for the 2024 projects for $35,845. The next one is for the Dixie Center. This is for the replacement of the monument signs at the Dixie Convention Center and the Greater Zion Welcome Center. This is a total of, this covers two different signs. It's $42,435. The next one is also for the Dixie Center. This is for the design, fabrication, and installation of new guest kiosk service desks. It's for one large desk and two kiosk desks. This bid came in a range of $146,000 to $163,000. So we know we're not spending more than $163,000, so that's what we're doing the requisition as. The next one is for emergency services.
Wait, I'm sorry, Ray, could you go back to that one? You said
Yeah.
it's 163,000, you said we're not spending 163,000?
Yeah, the max amount will be 163,000. They gave us a range bid.
Oh,
of-
range bid, okay, I
yeah,
missed the range
From
bid.
146,000 to 163,000.
Got it, thank you.
So
That's
we're
what
going high on the requisition just in case.
What, we used to build a house for that.
I know, I was just thinking the
So,
same
Yeah.
thing.
Can you tell us a little bit the scope?
Yeah,
if
sure.
you know,
So it'll be the internal structure and pony walls and cabinets, 14 under counter cabinets and support structure for courts, counters, and faux stone aprons, including 5 swing gates and a few other fabrication for the cabinets. That's listed at $38,000 to $45,000. The CNC or custom carved faux stone aprons is estimated at $42,000. The quartz stone countertops and skirting composed of 2 and 3 centimeter quartz for $42,000 to $48,000. The overhead rigged structure above the main reception area only, including LED downlights, and hardware and installation and the use of, they're gonna use the Dixie Center forklifts and stuff, so that saved us a little bit. And then that was in a range of $24,000 to $28,000. And that's where they get the 146 to 163.
well, the upgrades they're doing are beautiful, and
Yes.
this is long needed, and we've seen the rendering, it is beautiful.
Yes, I
Thank you
have
for that.
pictures of the,
Yeah, thank you for
sketches,
that
too.
breakdown.
Mr. Chairman, I do think it's also important, Ray, could you read the notes of the PO, or the PR here?
oh yeah, sure.
'Cause I think that's important for the public to see.
It says the Dixie Center contacted numerous contractors in order to fulfill this request. We had 5 estimates submitting ranges from $96,000 to $260,000. Every estimate was higher than initially budgeted for. However, because some of the other capital projects came in significantly less, this still falls within the 2024 capital projects budget.
Awesome,
That last sentence was the main part there, so it is still within the
yeah. Thank you.
total budgeted amount. Thanks, Ray.
And in case anybody wants to know, there's still more left. So,
Okay,
More money left over is what you're
Yes.
saying? Not more items still to be paid for.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Okay. The next one is for emergency services. This is for a bomb squad robot repair, for $28,298.
is that being used to destroy the old entrance desk of the Dixie Center?
I hope so.
That'd make
Just
some good
teasing.
use of that. and-
Awesome.
I've watched some of their trainings on video and it's pretty cool. Anyway. The next one is, technically building maintenance is asking for it, but it's for paint for the Hurricane Branch Library. This also includes drywall repair for $35,000. The next few are for tourism office. The first one is for promotional items for PGA giveaway items. This was $13,975. The next one is a golf documentary, film, and production. This is a blanket PO for $65,000. Next one is a golf co-op ad buy. This is also a blanket PO for $185,000. And the next couple are for the sheriff's office. This first one is for 62 radio system changeout for 55 vehicles. It includes labor and materials. This is $15,766. This is for if you remember, we just bought those encryption keys for those new radios. These are those new radios.
Okay.
Got it.
Next one is for the makeup air unit above the kitchen at the jail. And so this is the unit that's used to replace the air that is sucked out of the kitchen from the ventilation system. It hasn't been working for a while, and it's starting to affect the AC units, and so we need to get it. It's mostly replaced, but they're repairing what they can. This is $23,300. And the final one is for 12 table and chair sets for the new jail expansion building. This is for $32,290.80. And unless there's any more questions, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase request as presented by Ray.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Next, item 5, consideration of ordinance number 2024-1276-0, an ordinance adopting and amending Title 10 zoning regulations, including definitions regarding Chapter 12, mining and gravel.
I'm back with more changes to Title 10, my favorite thing in the world. Back in 2022, we put into place a placeholder zone for mining and gravel. And we're behind on our drafting chores, as we all understand, and we're back now with the details for this zone. And we've added the details that are necessary for a good mining and gravel zone and a good operation. One of the most important things that we did from the placeholder zone was we fixed the setbacks. We reduced the setback. We had a setback of 500 feet from any other zone. And so you'll see on lines starting at 45 that we reduced those to 400 if you're by a residential zone. We reduced it to 200 if you're by a large ag zone or open space zone. And then something very important to a potential applicant that might come in is we reduced the side setback to 0 if you're right next door to another mining and gravel pit, which might be in a mining and gravel zone or in a authorized CUP for mining and gravel. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended these changes. One of the other things the Planning Commission was very interested in getting in there, and we've added it at line 71, starting at 71, is even if there's no public road frontage to a mining and gravel operation, that you could still have a mining and gravel operation in a remote location if you had an adequate recorded access easement to that mining and gravel operation. We also added standards for disturbance by phase, don't disturb in the setback, and we've also added dust control as part of the mining and gravel plan. And you'll see also at lines 226, we've added a rehabilitation and reclamation plan that was absent before this iteration of the mining and gravel zone. We needed this, and we also needed a bond for reclamation by phases. As you might understand that each mining and gravel operation, they set up as their own singular corporation. And then if you don't have a reclamation plan and a bond, the minute the extraction is done, they dissolve that corporation, and then you don't get the reclamation that you need. So those were necessary details that are at lines 233 and also the performance bond at 281. So that's the outline of the mining and gravel zone. Again, necessary details that should have been enacted 2 years ago, and we're getting around to drafting them now. So we would request that an ordinance be passed based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission that reviewed this thoroughly. Also, the Public Works Department and Community Development Department participated in the drafting.
Would you say that this isn't anything that's not standard amongst other counties or operations? It's We're not asking something, we may be even a little more lenient than some, depending on where the mines are, I get it. But wouldn't you say that this falls in not only the state's requirements for air, quality and operations, timing, and dust control goes on with air quality, but the other one, the reclamation.
Yes, it's short and succinct compared to others, and the setbacks are maybe even a bit more lenient than in some areas. We wanted people to, we have a lot of building going on here, we want people to be able to extract. We also put into place, and this is something that is going to be a bit of a trial, and we may want to expand it, we put in place a temporary concrete mixing and batching plant on the mining operation, so you can do that on site, and we may want to expand that in the future. We're going to see how it goes with the temporary ones. So,
Well, it's my understanding in talking with you, Victoria, and with others, that this will actually help somebody that is looking to start when you talk about mining, we're really talking about gravel, we're talking about sand, gravel, cinders, and it is kind of this fine balance. I mean, I have close family members who basically lived in, American Fork Canyon and were pushed out by a gravel pit, and it's kind of sad. They had a nice little place, but gravel pits don't make good neighbors, but yet they're so important for our area. And so we had talked about the importance of trying to help find zoning and that would allow for mining like gravel and cinders in our county. And so anyway, I appreciate the Planning Commission and Community Development for taking a stab at this, and hopefully we've found a balance that will be workable for everybody. So.
we have a couple potential applications that aren't complete or in, but we had to look at our placeholder code, and it was going to be too restrictive in a lot of ways. So we've added regulations, but we've also made it more feasible for people to do it.
All right.
Very, very good, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-1276-0, an ordinance adopting and amending Title 10 zoning regulations, including definitions regarding Chapter 12 mining and gravel.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you. Our next item is 6, consideration of ordinance number 2024-1277-0, an ordinance approving the partial amendment of the Grassy Meadows Sky Ranch subdivision and vacation of a public utility easement. Scott.
Yes, Commissioner. Sarah, you're right, going to the next slide. Let's go to the next one. So the two parcels that are highlighted in red on this map are Lot 14 and 15 in Grassy Meadows Sky Ranch subdivision. The property owners had been had moved some property lines around, but when you move property lines around, it doesn't automatically move the easements. And there are some easements that went along the side and rear lot lines of this subdivision that needed to be vacated and moved to the new location. Generally, final plats don't come before the county commission, but due to the fact that the easement and state code and county code with easements for the vacation and the approval of the amended plat with the new easement lines there, it comes before the county commission for that. The planning commission reviewed and recommended approval of the proposed amended subdivision plat as well as the easement, subject to the findings and conditions listed in the staff report. And I can go into more detail if you'd like. I can tell you that, let's go to the next one. You can see right there that there's a taxiway. I learned in the planning commission, I'm not an airplane guy, I learned that I said runway. It's not a runway, it's a taxiway for the airport. And with the lot line adjustments, they just needed to make it so it was feasible for both property owners to be able to access the taxiway.
Makes sense. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-1277-0, an ordinance approving the partial amendment of the Grassy Meadows Sky Ranch subdivision and vacation of a public utility easement.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Thank you, Scott, for your presentation. All in favor, say aye.
thank
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Item 7, consideration of ordinance number 2024-1278-0, an ordinance amending and reauthorizing the sales and use tax known as RAP tax to fund recreational and cultural facilities and organizations. Devin.
Commissioners, actually, with this item, this is one that should be considered. You're going to be quoting and citing the official election results, and so I'd recommend that you table this until after the Board of Canvassers meeting today.
So this now becomes our final item after the canvass?
Correct. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move item number 7 to after our Board of Canvassers meeting.
I'll second
Amend the
that
agenda
motion.
to do that.
Motion to amend the agenda to move the item 7 currently to the end of the agenda has been made and seconded.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Item number 8 then. Consideration of proclamation number 2024-37, a proclamation honoring and remembering the USS Utah, the forgotten ship of World War II.
Mr. Chairman, we're coming up on December 7th, and everybody remembers that. And part of the importance of tonight is to remember December 7th in the same way that we remember September 11th. And so I'd like to invite, with your permission, invite Councilmember Kurt Ivey up to
Please.
talk a little bit about this resolution. And
Yeah, he's worked hard on it.
yes.
Commissioners, thank you so much for having us here tonight. This has been a very rewarding and needed undertaking. When I first heard of this, I thought of Commissioner Almquist and his knowledge and understanding and just an undying desire to learn more about World War II and stuff. And so I really appreciate being here tonight. And so I've really enjoyed those interactions over the years and talking and learning about those. But may I introduce these folks that are with me tonight. These are the Olsons, John and Melanie Olson, and this idea actually came from them. Just briefly, I know you have a packed agenda, but they found an original flag. That flew on the USS Utah. If you can read it, it says Pearl Harbor, found on USS Utah, December 7th, 1941. The sailor was T. Martin. And John and his wife graciously donated that to the city. And as they did that, we undertook discussions on, it didn't sit well that it was the forgotten ship, because Utah shouldn't be forgotten for anything. Like Commissioner Snow said, we lead out with low taxes and high quality of life. And we do all those things for our citizens because we love it here and we want them to love it here as well. So that didn't sit well. So we sat out and Washington City passed the first resolution. Since then, we were able to take it to the state, and Rockville has passed it. And some might ask, well, if the state passed it, why should our community? Because this should be celebrated at all levels. We're all part of Utah, and we're part of the USS Utah, the history. And so I'm not going to bore you with the details. You know what USS Utah is. You know how important it is. You know that it was the first vessel, the first bomb that was delivered to the Americans hit the USS Utah at 8:01 a.m. as sailors were preparing to hoist the flags on the fantail at 8 a.m. that morning. There's stories of heroism. There's stories that will make you tear up. There's a Medal of Honor winner that saved countless lives with his selfless service in keeping the boat boilers going to keep the water flowing so that the pumps would run and people would be able to get out. There's stories of Utahns that served on this ship, that died on this ship. There's stories of a little baby named Baby Nancy that died 2 days after her birth. and her ashes were on the USS Utah waiting for a chaplain and waiting to get at sea where they were planning a burial. And since that time, since 1941, we like to think that those 58 soldiers that perished that day keep watch over this little girl. And that's a great story, a great history. You know, in all these acts of valor, you can find tender messages like that for us to learn from. And I just want you to know that I appreciate the opportunity and to be here tonight and to share this story, and would encourage you to pass this proclamation if you so see fit. If you have any questions or would like to speak with...
Well, tell us a little more about how you found the flag.
Sure.
First of all, thanks for inviting me.
Wonderful.
It is a privilege and an honor. So I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer, and I'm looking for a very specific Smith & Wesson revolver. And I was on the internet visiting a site of a shop in Southern Illinois, and on their discount page, back 23 pages, as I was looking for this revolver, there was this flag, and it said Utah. I didn't care about the revolver anymore. That flag had to come home. There are clamps hanging in my living room where that flag was going to hang. I ordered it, purchased it on a Wednesday. It was here that Saturday. I reached out to Councilman Ivey Tuesday. This was in July of 2023. In August of 2023, Washington City passed a resolution. This flag will hang in the Washington City office building for the rest of time. In December, I made it over to the city of Rockville. They passed their resolution. I'm not political. From January to the end of February, I watched House Concurrent Resolution number 1 work its way through the legislative session where the government signed a state's resolution. Every one of those resolutions have asked for cities, towns to pass their own. That's why I'm so honored to be here now in this county where I grew up, where I got my education, and to give back, to right the ship. No ship that carries the USS Utah name is forgotten in my state. And in 2025, the second Navy vessel to carry the Utah name will be commissioned, a nuclear-powered submarine, and we have plans for her also. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. And you know, there's something about that flag because of its size that it probably wasn't on the stern. It was most likely a captain's flag on the mainmast because, as they say, the captain goes down with the ship, and the captain's flag has to stay at the highest on the ship that they can reach. And so most likely that was a captain's flag that this Mr. Martin recovered.
In 2002, the main flag from the USS Utah, and it's just the lanyard holes, the white stripe in the beginning of the flag was sold at a private auction for $25,000. It'll never be seen by the public. This one will be seen.
Well, you were hunting for that revolver for a reason. Thank you so much.
Very, very cool.
Thank you. It was
Let's,
so much fun to see you at the...
If you haven't had the opportunity, can we bring it to you and let you hold her?
Yeah, let's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to see it up close. We'll come to you.
And not wanting to take any more of your time, we have an annual celebration in Veterans Park on December 7th at 8 a.m. We'd love everyone to come.
Councilman. Wonderful. Well, it's amazing what pieces of our history just lie beyond reach sometimes, and then they surface like this one. So wonderful. Thank you for making that happen. I think it was meant to happen, don't you? That you were called to do it almost. All right. Well, we need a...
Yeah, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pass proclamation 2024-37, a proclamation honoring and remembering USS Utah, the forgotten ship of World War II.
And I wholeheartedly second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for bringing your flag in, and
Thank you.
we're glad the public can see it. Item number 9, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3382, a resolution appointing a board member to the Washington County Planning Commission. Scott.
Yes, Commissioners, each year we have staggered terms for our County Planning Commission, and we are requesting the reappointment of Kevin Jones, who has served on our Planning Commission, has done an exceptional job in his...
Very well. Yeah.
We are grateful for him and his willingness to continue to serve too, because...
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission is a thankless job many times. They do hours and hours of good work and for no pay and then no public accolades. There's no ribbon cuttings for them to go to. We really appreciate the work of the Planning Commission, but they do a lot of important work, and they sit and dive into a lot of issues and try and figure out best use of land and
public hearings.
Yeah, hold public hearings and how are things compatible and what the rules should be that still allow people to use their property. And so, we just thank the planning commissioners and they're a recommending body to us, but for all the good work they do, and then we rely on them heavily. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3382, appointing a board member, Kevin Jones, to the Washington County Planning Commission.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Passes.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Item 10, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3383. Thank you, Hurricane Fire.
Thanks.
A resolution approving an agreement with TREPP for appraisal services. I don't see Tom here, but are you representing?
Josh, is that you?
Josh, how's it going?
Said for me to come. You didn't know whether or not you would need an explanation, but happy to do so. So TREP is specifically a subscription-based product that allows us to gain more access to commercial data to help us in the valuation process. Utah being a non-disclosure state makes it challenging to be able to access information, to be able to...
Comparables and such.
Yeah, comparables for fair and equitable assessment and appraisal. Residential properties get around that a little bit with the MLS and things of that nature, state questionnaire. Commercial properties, it is significantly harder. This product will provide us with some data that will help us in that avenue a little bit better, with not only with some sales and appraisals from properties that have lending out on them, but also for income analysis expense ratios, cap rates, things of that nature to hopefully help us be able to have more data to go through the process of valuation in commercial properties.
Well, they always want it to be valued high when they're selling it and low when they're taxed.
That's how it works.
So this is the fairness principle you're trying to apply. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3383, a resolution approving an agreement with TREP for appraisal services.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Josh, for covering.
Tell Tom that we were disappointed that he didn't come to our meeting.
He owes you dinner. Fair
But
enough.
we're disappointed he didn't come, but we're excited you did, Josh.
Mm-hmm. Our next item, 11, is consideration of resolution number R-2024-3384, a resolution approving the Council of Governments recommendations, otherwise known as the COG.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is for the October 15th, 2024 meeting. I believe you were all there, so you'll be familiar with these, but the recommendation from the COG was to, first item, transfer $1 million from the Preservation Fund to the Construction Grant Fund. Second item was for Ivan City. They requested $700,000 for the Construction Grant Fund to pay for right-of-way for the Western Corridor along the Black Desert property. And the final one was also from Ivans for $1.4 million from the Construction Grant Fund to pay for right-of-way for the Western Corridor along the retreat at Snow Canyon property. We do have the funding for each of these and would ask for your ratification.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Resolution R-2024-3384, approving the Council of Government recommendations.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you. Thanks for the vision of having the COG so we can get these right away. Consideration of resolution number R-2024-3385, a resolution approving the renewal of an independent contractor agreement to operate the Welcome Center at the Dixie Center. Jamie.
Hello, Commissioners. The Greater Zion Welcome Center serves as a first stop information center for travelers visiting and passing through the state of Utah via directional signs on I-15. The Welcome Center occupies a small space within the Dixie Center, which is shared with the Rosenbrook Wildlife Museum. The Welcome Center averages this year about 64,000 visitors seeking information about the area, and because of its advantageous parking capacity and high traffic, our office has found a need to continue operating the Welcome Center through 2025. Maxine Stringham has been contracted to run and maintain the Welcome Center since its inception at the Dixie Center and has been approached to continue operations again. The contract includes up to $90,000 to run and operate the Welcome Center.
Jamie, help me remember the history a little bit since I wasn't here. It was originally, was this a state of Utah
Yes.
type of contract? And then, are they still involved?
No,
Okay.
they decided pretty much right after COVID to shut down a lot of the Welcome Centers or to shutter the doors just because of, honestly, I'm not exactly sure what their reasoning was. We found because our
Because they're
old-
not very welcoming, that's probably
Yeah,
what.
maybe that was the reason. We found because of our placement in our old Welcome Center or our old Visitor Center that we just weren't able to get the RV capacity, and because they were seeing such high visitation that we felt the need to keep it running.
So, 90,000 annually is, now will that be enough to run it?
Yeah, that includes all of the costs for employees, that includes all of operation costs, that includes everything for rent and everything else that's included within those costs for the Welcome Center.
Okay. And the state of Utah no longer puts any money?
Nothing.
But at the same time, they don't have any claim for health, medical, dental, all of that, right?
They don't.
That's in clause 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then do they run a small gift shop or something there?
Well, the Rosenbrook does. The
Oh,
Welcome
okay,
Center
that's
does
separate.
not. The
Okay.
Rosenbrook operates the gift shop, and the money is used to pay for employees and things like that. Maxine contracts other people as part-time.
Yeah, because it didn't have a commercial clause in there, so, all right, thank you.
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2024-3385, a resolution approving the renewal of an independent contractor agreement to operate the Welcome Center at the Dixie Center.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Item 13, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3386, a resolution appointing members to the Habitat Conservation Advisory Committee. Cameron.
Good evening. So we have two new nominations for the HCAC. Both of these have served on the HCAC committee before. Mayor Hart was formerly representing development, but he was nominated by the Mayor's Association to represent the mayors. And so he's going to make the switch to representing the Mayor's Association, which will vacate the available seat representing local development. So we reached out to Sitla, the largest developer in the county and the largest inholder in the reserve, and they have nominated Greg MacArthur, who also used to be on the HCAC when he represented St. George City, to represent the local development on the HCAC.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, both of these have been valuable resources in the years I've been associated with the HCAC. Mayor Hart does a great job, and Greg, like you said, has got a lot of experience there as well. So they're not coming into this blind, and that experience is valuable to the county as a recommended body to us, which is what the HCAC does. A very annoying horn outside. If we could use the bomb squad robot, go shut the horn off. So I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3386, appointing members to the Habitat Conservation Committee as described by Cameron.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Cameron, I think you're up again.
Yeah, you're on for the next one. Item 14.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'll handle this one.
Oh, so that's why it stopped honking?
It only honks during
Cameron. Honks when Cameron's speaking. Sorry,
Okay.
Cameron, that's a horrible thing.
All right. Devin, no honk. Go ahead.
Commissioners, this will be the fourth time that you've had this item before you. This is a land exchange in Confluence Park. The land exchange would take about a little over an acre of land out of Confluence Park and take in 20 acres. The state is requiring a lot of process on this, and so this is the reason for this amendment is to extend the deadline to get that transfer completed.
You know, now that I see this on our agenda again, I'm starting to wonder if I'll take back all the bad things I said about the federal government, and I'm going to apply them to state agencies, DNR in particular. When was the last time I signed that?
22.
Okay, so we signed it back in 22. And I will say that this was going on prior to me coming on as a commissioner, so I don't know. I don't want to say anything about it that I regret, so I'm just going to go ahead and vote that we extend our working relationship, I guess. So somebody's going to retire on this project. Like, this is going to be their entire career. At the end of their career at the state, they're just going to say, what did you accomplish? I traded an acre and a half out of the Confluence Park that happens to be sitting right next to the old trash dump. So anyway, don't get me started. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3387, and I'm not even going to read the title.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so the incomplete motion is based upon history. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
The only joy is that the next time we renew this, it'll be Gil Almquist's signature that's on the back as chairman.
Well, I'm going to keep running until we really do get that acre and a half for sure.
Yeah, maybe we should all run on the campaign promise that we're going to free this acre and a half.
Yep. Till the act of Congress says it's ours. All right. Item 15, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3388, a resolution approving the renewal of an agreement between Washington County and Adara for data collection and exchange services. Sarah.
Chairman, I just want to know if we could have Brittany McMichael explain how this was divvied up, because the rest of the agenda is all from our tourism department. And, they just make sure everybody got one. Did you guys draw lots? How did it?
We've been busy.
Expertise?
Okay.
Okay.
Does that cover it?
Draw straws.
Just saying, it's a really, really long agenda and kind of your fault.
I'll be quick. As you heard, this is the renew of an Adara contract. Adara is a tool/platform that allows us at the tourism office to track the rate of return on our digital advertising. Our ad agency also uses such, giving us an idea of impacts as seen in hotel bookings, airline bookings, and also website visits, etc. And that is all, again, tracking people that have seen our ads and done some kind of action. It is an annual contract, and again, pleased with what it is doing.
Yeah, you
and
must like
reporting.
what they do.
Correct.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3388, a resolution approving the renewal of an agreement between Washington County and Adara for data collection and exchange services.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next item, 16 and 17, do you think we should put those after the Okay.
That
Well,
was funny.
He's
That was a
usually
good one.
not the mean one, so that was weird.
Consideration of resolution number R 2024-3389, a resolution appointing a board member to the Washington County Tourism Tax Advisory Board.
Personally, I think it shows that we are the hardest working department in Washington County. That's why we have so many items on the agenda tonight.
I fully agree. Thank you for bringing
Okay,
that around.
thank
Good
you.
point.
Report that, Maury.
We have a vacancy on the Tourism Advisory Board as Tracy Welsh has left Red Mountain Resort. So we're thrilled to ask, I guess, that Zach Nixon with Prime Hospitality step in and finish out Tracy's term. As you know, the members of the TAB board, the majority of them either need to pay into the transient room tax or the TRCCA funds. So Zach represents multiple properties, including Best Western Zion Canyon Inn, Zion Wildflower, Courtyard by Marriott, Town Place Suites by Marriott, Hampton Inn, St. George Inn and Suites, and Wingate by Wyndham. So we're getting a pretty wide swath of properties represented by one person. So it's a really good fit for the board.
Great.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, I move, go ahead now. Your turn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2024-3389, a resolution appointing a board member to the Washington County Tourism Tax Advisory Board, and that member is Zach Nixon.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Our next item, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3390, a resolution ratifying the adoption of the Washington County Tourism Advisory Board bylaws.
So it turns out we were operating our Tourism Advisory Board on the ordinance and the code, and we didn't really have any official bylaws. So we recently worked with the attorney's office to get some bylaws put together based on the ordinance and the code, and those were approved by our Tourism Advisory Board in our last meeting.
I think this resolution before us just proves that with an excellent chair, you can function without bylaws. So.
Indeed.
Who would that chair be?
A non-voting member of this commission. Okay.
Devin, is that like Christmas morning for you guys? Like, oh my goodness, there's a committee without bylaws. We get to write them.
We like bylaws.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution R 2024-3390, a resolution ratifying the adoption of the Washington County Tourism Advisory Board bylaws so they can finally be compliant.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 18, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3391, a resolution approving the renewal of an agreement between Greater Zion Convention and Tourism Office and Love Communications for marketing agency services.
Hello again. As you guys know, Love Communications has been our agency of record. The retainer contract ends at the end of this year. However, this project that this scope of work represents actually continues work that was based around work they're doing on the golf-specific campaign around the golf documentary that we have in the works. So that continues work through May on that specific project, releasing them from all other projects. So just incorporating and making sure that this is accounted for. This finishes the ad buy, the reporting on all of that, and allows us to compare phase 1 of the campaign with phase 2 without splitting it between vendors. So this statement of work outlines those capacities of Love and the fee structure as such.
Very good.
Wow, there's a lot of technical data in those sentences.
Well,
Do they take us through the LPGA, or is that something they build up to?
This does go through May, so it accounts for the LPGA and it will build up to the interest in the LPGA. So there's timing around that, around the Copper Rock event, around the seasonality of golf, etc.
So they're-
this is mostly around the documentary and some of the work that you did.
Correct.
On that.
So it's really maximizing the golf documentary and getting it shown and being able to tell that Greater Zion story in a different capacity than just saying come golf.
Right, well, they're good to tee it up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion we adopt Resolution R-2024-3391, a resolution approving the renewal of an agreement between Greater Zion Convention and Tourism and Love Communication for marketing agency services.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say swing.
Swing.
Okay, say aye.
Aye.
Did I go out of turn?
Nope.
Okay.
There's no turn.
No, it was just a really bad joke about
There's
teeing it
only
up.
try
Okay.
and do. All right. Longer agendas, the air gets thin. Okay. Our next one, item 19, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3392, a resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with Zion Events LLC. Jamie?
Yes, this resolution is for a marketing agreement between the Greater Zion Convention and Tourism Office and Zion Live Events for promotion of the 2025 Zion Canyon Music Festival for up to $2,500.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R-2024-3392, approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with Zion Events LLC.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 20, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3393, a resolution approving TRT funding for a marketing sponsorship and event funding for nonprofit organizations in Washington County. Chad?
Yeah, this resolution is for request TRT funding for 3 nonprofit events or not events. St. George Area Chamber of Commerce for printing of the St. George Area Guide for $30,000. The next one is for 2 events, the Senior World Softball Championships in the spring they bring 130 to 150 teams for $18,200 for this event. The next one is for the Desert Roads and Trail Society for the Winter 4x4 Jamboree. The Winter 4x4 Jamboree is held in January. They bring in a little over 1,000 participants, over 600 from out of the state of Utah, 300 to 400 from within the state of Utah for trail rides and awareness. This organization does a lot of great good besides the little over $1 million in economic impact for what they do for the advocacy of our trails and for stewardship of those trails and for the longevity of them. Some of their board members are here in attendance, but that event is for recommendation up to $12,000 for that particular one.
Very good. Well, thank you, Chad. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3393, a resolution approving TRT funding for marketing sponsorships and event funding for nonprofit organizations in Washington County and those that are listed. Have been listed.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, item 21, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3394, resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with the United States Practical Shooting Association.
This is a resolution for
Thank you for coming.
Oh,
Thank you for coming. Yeah, good deal.
this is a resolution for funding of transit room tax monies. Again, approved and recommended by the TAB Board for the United States Practical Shooting Association to have an event marketing package with the national event. As you know, the county's put a lot of money into the shooting park out at Legacy, and this is one of the things with those improvements we were able to attract this national level event, and so
They're committed to coming here for the next 2 years with the possibility of putting us on the map for the World Finals after that. So we will be in the running after we hold these 2 events. These will be at the end of October. They'll bring in 500 shooters for over a week. And this, we have a projected income of, or economic impact of $1 million, and we recommend $70,000 to be expended toward this event.
I do believe their projections on the number of shooters and what we call heads and beds of visitors, I mean, it's real. These guys come and stay here, so. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3394, resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with the United States Practical Shooting Association.
I'll second the motion.
Great. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item number 22, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3395, a resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with Red Slopes Soccer Foundation.
This is another event, TRT expenditure that was approved by the TAB board for Red Slopes Soccer Foundation for the 7 Elite International Soccer Tournament that'll be held in the first part of February. They bring over 500 teams between the southern or Mesquite area and in the Washington County area. There'll be about 300 teams that'll play in Washington between the Chivowitz Field, Sullivan Park, and Little Valley that'll be staying here. That's 4,200 players that'll be in here. 30 of them are international teams that will be coming this year that is new. We will be the presenting sponsor of this event. We recommend for the funding of $25,000. This has an economic impact of roughly $6 million during that week.
It's almost like when you go out and watch them, you say, how does this stay organized? Because there's teams everywhere.
Yeah, and the organizers are in Salt Lake and in the UK. So we've been working with them on Zooms and they're in the UK, and it's a pretty big event.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R-2024-3395, approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with Red Slope Soccer Foundation.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Item 23, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3396, resolution approving a purchase agreement with C-Vent for lead services for meeting planners.
Yes, good afternoon. This is to approve entering into a 1-year purchase agreement for lead services for meeting planners. C-Vent is a platform that offers marketing, sales, and operations solutions connecting to over 90,000 meeting planners. C-Vent is the leading platform for meeting planners to source meeting locations, get information, and submit requests for proposals. This will give Greater Zion a bigger presence and should attract more meeting planners to want to hold meetings in our area, thereby generating economic impact for the county. And as you know, meetings and conventions had an economic impact of almost $70,000 in 2023, and by using C-Vent, we should see an increase in economic impact.
How's this similar to the last event you held for Small Town?
Small market meetings.
Small market meeting, yeah.
So with that, we had actually 60 to 65 meeting planners, and then 165 meeting professionals, CBBs like ourselves and other hospitality professionals. So a smaller number. This will allow us to kind of get more exposure, get more of a presence, so people come looking for us. And then the other thing that's really great about this is I will actually have the opportunity in many cases to jump on, and if I see a hotel or another partner that is not participating in this RFP for a number of different reasons, I can actually directly try to reach out and start some dialogue with that meeting planner to find out what the situation is. Can they reconsider? Can we talk to them about future meetings and also add them to our database and really just get them on our radar?
Okay.
So is this kind of a digital marketplace for
It is.
location for different types of
It is.
conferences and events?
They start with site selection, depending on what their meeting needs are. And then if we meet their site selection, they'll either send it directly to me or sometimes they'll send it directly to the hotels.
but this will allow us to also track the data so we can see if there's a return on investment, as well as if we're getting some traction in the market. They also offer with this a complimentary feature that gives us kind of a added presence for the first 6 months, which this is a special deal. So when I first looked into this in 2023, it was well over $20,000. And CVent heard from a number of people in small markets, including myself, that this just really is a little too much for us to bite off right now. So they did come back just a few months ago with saying they were looking into this special offer, and then this came to fruition. So I just kind of want to jump on it while we can, and then just see how we go with the return on investment for 1 year. So this would be for 1 year.
Oh, very good. All right, well, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3396, a resolution approving a purchase agreement with Civet for lead generation for meeting planners.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else, tourism, you want to just come up with? You're on a roll.
Anybody that we didn't see today?
Hey, where's Matthew?
Trista, Leslie want to come on up?
Yeah, MK.
Joyce?
Yeah, all right.
Thank you very much. Good work. All right, we've already covered item 24, which became item 3. Item 25 is next, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3398, a resolution approving a right-of-way easement for natural gas service at the new Solid Waste Administration Building.
Commissioners, the Solid Waste District is leasing county property, and so as they're constructing this building, they need services to serve the building. This easement would allow Questor to build gas lines that would serve this new building.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Resolution R 2024-3398, approving a right-of-way easement for natural gas service at the new Solid Waste Administration Building.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 26, Washington County 2025 budget presentation. Ryan. Thanks for waiting.
And he looks so nice. He wore a tie.
Look at him in a tie. And
Forced him to be here for 2 hours in a tie?
Next time you do this presentation, could you put our old building on the slide? Just, no. We're going to talk about money. I wanted to.
Get my election stuff separated since we changed the order on you. All right. Yeah, look at that. It's a great looking picture right there. Okay, we're gonna go through our proposed 2025 budget. It will be finalized in December. So this is a work in progress, but this is what the budget committee and working with all the department heads and other elected officials where we've come up so far. So I do want to start out by saying that there are no new taxes in this budget. In fact, there's actually a tax decrease that we'll go get to later in the presentation. So we'll start with our first fund. See if we can work this.
Maybe you could budget a new clicker.
This is brand new.
We're going to save primarily on batteries. There we go.
You can just click it for me. How about that? Sorry. So I know that the general fund, there's a lot in there, so it's a little harder to see. The rest of them won't be as hard to read on this one, but I just want to go over some of the highlights of each fund. If you look at the taxes, they have increased, and that's not an increase in tax on a person. It's when property taxes, when the base increases, new growth, like when we have a new building that's built or a new home that's built, that increases the tax base. Also, as more people move here, we have increased sales tax, so that includes our sales tax projections for 2025 as well.
Ryan, I'm not going to stop you every line, don't worry.
No, go for it.
But just for the public to remember that when you say sales tax, that's not just sales tax from Washington County residents. A huge portion of our sales tax revenue comes from sales tax paid by tourists. That's not talking heads in beds. They go to the grocery store, they go somewhere, they buy an item. The sales tax from that goes into that fund as well. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct, yes. Our public defender contracts went up some that you can see there. Turns out that being an attorney is a good profession to be in, but to be on par and to be at market with some of the other public defenders, we had to up that some. You'll notice too that there's a increase in the information technology line, the IT budget. Part of that is from the new ERP solution that we're moving to, which encompasses a new system for payroll, HR, and accounting. The auditor budget, you can see it increased as well some, and that is for the conversion of all the data for this new ERP system. So in IT is where the actual software costs are billed to, but the conversion costs we have in the auditor's budget, since most of that information is financial information. The recorder budget shows an increase, and that's mainly due to we moved our county surveyor from the Public Works Department over to the recorder's office for 2025. Also, you can see another increase here in our public safety. That 20 million that you see there is our jail, essentially. So we're doing an expansion on the jail, and it's going to take some additional deputies to man the additional holding cells, and there's a new medical wing that's being put there. So that's staff, that's budgeted for staff that hasn't been hired yet, that we will be hiring. All right, let's see if we can go to the next fund. Okay, this is an overview of the general fund, and you can see that public safety, which is the jail, is the big expense to the county in the general fund. That's over 20 million, and how all the other departments compare in that fund.
Well, all the others combined
Yeah.
have that.
All right, next. All right, Fund 11 is our B&C roads fund. Now you'll see that there's a significant increase in expenditures and revenue on this fund. Our Public Works Director is really ambitious and has a lot of projects he wants to do next year. This is not an increase, again, in any tax. You can see that we're pulling this $6 million from our fund balance. These are funds that the county already holds that we're bringing up as revenue so that we can expense them on these projects that are planned. And just a couple of those that are in the budget are the Kolob Road, Sheet Bridge Road, and Tokerville Falls Road.
So Ryan, just to clarify again, these are savings. We've been
Right.
saving the money. We didn't have the money in any one year to do all these projects, but over time, we've saved up enough. Now let's actually go let's actually go pave, fix the roads, whatever all the projects that Todd's got here, so.
That is correct.
But now that we've saved it up, you've got to list it as revenue because you're moving it from savings to be spent this year.
Correct. And since we have balanced budgets here, that's why they're both the same. All right, next. Fund 12 is our Municipal Services Fund. It's primarily funded by PILT, which is payment in lieu of property tax, which is kind of pennies on the dollar that the federal government pays us since we can't use a lot of this land that they control. It also, the portion of sales tax, if you purchase a commodity in the unincorporated area of the county, we get a portion of that that flows into this fund. So again, the biggest expense in the municipal services fund is the sheriff's office. And this, what's different from the public safety and the general fund and Fund 12, this represents the patrol side. The deputies are out patrolling in their vehicles.
Now, Ryan, we'd had some discussion about moving the sheriff patrol back to Fund 10, but
yeah,
are you
we
going to do that with the transition maybe next year?
We may. We just felt like we needed to have some more discussions, and we didn't want to make too many moves and changes moving to a new accounting software this year. So.
Okay, very good.
I know that this doesn't seem like a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me, but you can see in this transfer to Fund 35 from Fund 12, there's $250,000. That was some money that was earmarked. I found in a restricted fund balance that was for flood emergencies. And I just thought it would be better if we had it in our flood damage fund. So we'll see that actually show up as a revenue when we get to that fund. All right, next. Fund 14 is our assessing and collecting fund. This is actually a tax levy on every property tax payer in Washington County. There's the change that you see here is primarily due to new growth. Again, there's no tax increase. It's the budget, the revenue, and the expenses increasing because of new buildings, new homes, new subdivisions that are coming online. The treasurer and the assessor are the main departments in this fund, although we do transfer some money for the auditor for doing the valuation notices and tax rates, but the assessor and treasurer are the main two departments in assessing and collecting. There's also a state assessing and collecting that's on everyone's tax bill, but the county does not get to keep that money. It comes to us, but then we send it to the state. All right, next. Fund 19 is our court support services. This is all grant funded except for the county does a match. So the county contributes this $175,000 for grant matching funds there. Court support services has a lot of caseworkers that work with people on probation and other situations like that. All right, next. Fund 20 is our Children's Justice Center. It's actually down a little bit. That's due to a couple of things, grants being a little less. They moved into a new building this year, and I'm sure that there were expenses for furniture and things like that they won't be needing for 2025. All right, let's go to our next one, Fund 22, the library. The library is also a tax levy on tax bills. And you can see that the taxes have increased. We're projecting them to increase some. That's new growth again. Other than that, it's not a lot of changes that you see there. We do operate 8 libraries. I always like to point out that the one we have listed as Santa Clara really isn't in Santa Clara, it's in St. George, what we call the Santa Clara Library. Right, Alan? All right.
I'm glad to see they're generating some money in book fines. In fact, I probably ought to talk to Alan about somebody's fine that I know.
Those late fees, yeah. All right, next. Fund 23 is our Habitat Conservation Plan, our tortoise fund, as we call it. This is funded, we get a portion of all the building permits, and it was a little aggressive for the 2024 projection. that 1.5 million. So when we amend the 2024 budget, that will probably be reduced closer to what the 2025 proposal will be. Let's see if I have any other notes on this one. No, let's go to the next one. Fund 24, Council of Aging, this is our senior centers. We operate 3 of those. The county contributes, let's see here. The 726,000 is what the county's contribution is. That one actually, not a lot of significant changes there. Pretty much the same in the COA fund, so we can go to the next. Fund 25 is our tourism fund. This is primarily revenues from TRT, transient room tax. We work really closely with our tourism director to come up with these projections. They let us know what they have planned, what events are coming to the area, so we can know how much to kind of look for in this revenue from room tax. The other portion of that intergovernmental that's grant funds that we're expecting to come in 2025. So I wanted to point out on the CTO expenses that we have $13.7 million budgeted. That line item has to be at least 47% of what we bring in. It's mandated by the state that we spend 47% on marketing and promotion of our area. You can see that it's significantly more than 47%, but you can see that there's over $7 million for projects that we have budgeted to come up from fund balance. So they have a lot of projects on the books for next year. But to me, the thing I like to talk about the most on this fund is the tourism development projects. You can see that have the 10.1 million. That represents projects that get done in our county for like trails and parks that we otherwise, as citizens here, wouldn't be able to fund. We'd have to do that out of our own pocket. So this is money that people pay as a part of a tax at their hotel room, and we as citizens here get to benefit from that. So it's always nice to see that there's over $10 million that are projected to come back into our community. All right, Fund 26, our County Recreation Fund. This is our TRCCA that funds that they primarily come from our restaurant tax. A portion of anytime someone eats at a restaurant, part of that comes here, as well as car rentals tax and OHV rental tax. The expenses are a little less than last year because we completed some projects. You can see that we transferred $950,000 this year to our capital projects fund that we're not going to be doing in 2025. All right, 127 is our economic development fund. This is basically a small fund where we fund an economic development director. The county pays for the wages and benefits. There's also a contribution from our tourism fund for the portion that our economic development director works on tourism-related economic development. And the rest is made up from a 501c3 that's tied to our economic development fund. All right, fund, what do we got next? 28. So our grant and endowment fund is obviously where the majority of our grants reside. You can see that this one is down quite a bit from 2024. Primarily, there were some ARPA funds, and one of the designated uses for ARPA funds was for water. And so there was a $5 million of the funds that we gave to the Washington County Water Conservancy District. And that's why this emergency operations expense is down. However, there's a big utility project happening in the Zion Canyon to get a sewer line up there, and it's going to be multiple years for that to happen and multiple millions of dollars. That is not, those aren't county funds. Those are pass-through funds that come to us. So this $2 million that we see for this utility project, the $2 million is actually up here in this $5 million as well. So it comes to us as revenue, and well, we actually pay the money and then we get reimbursed. Okay, so 29, Dixie Center. As you know, 2024 we took over the Dixie Center, operating it solely as the Washington County before we were partnered with St. George City. The revenues are projected to be a little higher. We have a great director down there who's streamlined some processes and increased our margins and redone some contracts, and so at least I'm really pleased with the way Jared's running the Dixie Center. All right, 30 RAB tax. So we'll talk about this a little bit later during our canvas, but this was up on the election this year for a renewal of 10 years. Let's see if I had anything to, as you know, the funds can be used for recreation, arts, and parks projects. The RAP tax entities distribution, that portion right there, the 4.4 million is what goes back to the participating entities such as like St. George, Washington, Hurricane, etc. All right, let's go to our next 33, our debt service fund. This is the one that I was like so excited to show. That if you look up there on our revenue on the taxes under the 2025 proposed, it's zero. And that's because we have two general obligation bonds, one of which we're paying off this year, and the next one is scheduled to be paid off in 2026. However, we have the money in savings to make the bond payment for 25 and 26. So when you see, this is a tax levy, it shows up on your tax bill. I'm really excited to look at my tax bill next year in 2025 and see some goose eggs on that line item. So this is your one tax cut. There was no tax increase, but there was this cut. So the other thing that was noteworthy is down there on the Dixie ATC building. Sometimes different organizations and entities can't borrow funds on their own, so they use the county to partner with, and we essentially let them borrow money on, it's kind of like my kids, where I had to help them get a loan on a car. And hopefully they pay you back. But lucky for us, Dixie ATC paid off their building this year, and so that won't be on our books. All right, next. Fund 35s, our flood damage. This is where that $250,000 got moved to, that you can see is the revenue right there I spoke about earlier. Now this is a big increase too. You can see that it's up over $5 million. This is all reimbursable funds too, but they've got a lot of projects planned along the river that they get reimbursed from the federal government through the NRCS. So remember that too, of the big increase, which we'll talk about at the very end of this presentation. We're getting close. Next. Fund 45 is our capital project. It's actually down a little bit, but we do have a lot of projects planned that we're working on for next year, which include the jail that we had mentioned, which has the medical wing and the additional housing. It also has a booking area remodel that's taking place. It also, we have the Boulevard building up here that's being remodeled for the court, federal court and the justice court. Next. All right, funds 52 and 53, he can go to the next one too, it's an entity that is separate from the county, but we do the books for them and their component unit, they have to show up on our books. But they have their own board, they pass their own budget and expenditures, but this is part of our inherited budget, but it's the flood control authority's funds. All right, let's go to Fund 60, which is our corridor preservation funds. These are funded partially by vehicle registrations. As you know, the goal of this fund and this organization, COG, as it's called, Council of Governments, is to identify right-of-ways and future roadways ahead of development so that they can purchase those at better prices before the development is at where the roadway or right-of-way needs to be. All right, next, Fund 74. This is the Wildlife Museum. There's not a lot of change there down at the Dixie Center. And Fund 76 is our payroll fund. This doesn't have any wages in it, but this is where all the benefits hit. This is where we track all of that. And you can see that there is an increase, and that is due to rising insurance costs. You can see that the county portion went up as well as the employee portion went up this year, unfortunately. All right. So here's the county totals, which is a pretty significant increase from last year. But I wanted to talk about that. It's $16.5 million of an increase, but I want you to think back to our Fund 11, our road department, where we had $6 million of savings that we have to show as a revenue and expense. So there's $6 million. And that flood damage, the NRCS fund, where they have all those projects planned, that it's all reimbursed by NRCS. That's another $5 million. There's $3 million in the Flood Control Authority projects, which is that separate entity, but it shows up on our budget. So that alone is $14 million of an increase, but those are all, yeah, it's not, an increase in tax is all I guess I'm trying to say.
Then we have several of our own construction projects that will be wrapping up this year too.
Yeah, so the biggest increases, like we saw, were due to public safety. In our general fund, the jail budget is increasing $2.3 million. And then our municipal services fund, the sheriff, the patrol division is potentially going up $1.5 million. So it's a lot of money to run a jail and a sheriff's department. Do you have any questions about the proposed budget?
I don't have any, well, maybe I have some questions. We'll get to that. But Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Iverson, and for the public, so we, as you all know, we the three of us can't meet and discuss budgets and everything in a behind closed doors. We have to do that in a public meeting. We should do that in a public meeting, so the public can see what's going on, and that we're not being pre-decisional or baking something, that the public didn't get to see. So there's a budget committee that meets, Ryan in his office and Nicole Felshaw, the county administrator, and myself sit on and meet with each department in each office and go through all this. It takes an enormous amount of work, as both of you already know. I do think, Ryan, you've said it several times, I think it's important that everybody understand that when you're calling it revenue, you're an accountant. Revenue for the average person means income. It doesn't always mean income to an accountant. Sometimes, and it doesn't necessarily mean new taxes. It can be reimbursements, it can be grants, it can be just moving money from one fund to another. But now that you've moved it over here, that's counting revenue here because it has to be accounted for somewhere, right? You can't just move money and have it create out of thin air. Accountants hate that. But I think, this is an 8% larger budget than last year. I think it's worthwhile knowing that it's an 8% larger budget with no new taxes, no increase in taxes. In some cases, taxes going down, but that the vast majority of this of the increase is savings that have been saved up by responsible fiscal management over years that are now being spent on projects that if we don't do, the longer we wait, especially in hyperinflationary pressures on the economy, all we're doing is devaluing and eroding the value of those dollars that the taxpayers have given and that we have saved. If we wait 5 years, a project that cost $2 million is now costing $4 million. We've done the taxpayers a disservice. And so it was the Budget Committee's decision to approve some of these and present it to us today so that we could get some things done. I mean, that's what the taxpayers want us to do when they say, yes, we'll allow ourselves to be taxed through state law, through federal law, but then use those B&C road funds, for instance, to go do something, right? Go pave roads. And like Ryan said, we've got Tokerville Falls Road, we've got Kolob Road, we've got Sheep's Bridge Road. These are important transportation corridors that are either dirt or in horrible repair, like Tokerville Falls, or can't be driven at certain times of year for people's livelihoods, like up Kolob for agriculture and livestock. And so I think this is, I guess I'm just chiming in that, yes, it's an increase. None of us like that, but it's not an increase in taxes. We were able to accomplish all of this, Ryan and his team, able to accomplish all this without a penny of new tax or of increase, because as we've said over and over and over again, it is hard to be a citizen in America right now sometimes when that inflationary pressure has made everything just a little bit tighter, and we could raise taxes to make things easier on us, but we just are unwilling to place that burden on our taxpayers and the citizens of Washington County until we absolutely have to. And this year we determined we're not there yet. We don't have to do that yet. And so we can afford this, and next year it'll change and we won't have some of these big projects down, but I'm happy that we can get some of these things done. The other part about law enforcement and public safety, those are constitutionally either U.S. or Utah constitutionally mandated things, right? It's not just nice to be a public defender. We have to defend criminals, right? Or people accused of crimes. That's in the Constitution. And if they can't afford it, then we have to do it for them. So, Commissioner Iverson, as you say all the time, we pay to the patrol deputy out there. We then pay to house you in the jail. We pay to defend you in court. We pay the prosecutors to prosecute you in court. We pay the bailiffs to protect the court while you're being prosecuted. And if you're found guilty by a jury of your peers, then you're going to pay to house you in the jail again.
So the lesson is stop committing crime.
And that would be really nice. This budget would go down if people would just stop committing crimes. Let's have that be the headline. But until that happens in a nice utopian society, we have to do these things. This isn't a choice. And we were getting to the point with our good public defenders that if we didn't raise some of this, which was a substantial increase this year, that this is a voluntary thing. They don't have to be a public defender, but we have to have public defenders. So if we didn't increase this a little bit, some of these contracts, we would be failing our constitutional duty as a county to fulfill some of these. So again, Ryan, with all of that commentary, thank you for all the work you and your team did. I'd like to say it was a pleasure being on the Budget Committee again. I don't know if I'm going to say pleasure, but it was insightful into what it takes to actually run this government.
We appreciate all the help from the Budget Committee and all the department heads, but I think I'm going to mention this. There's a new piece of legislation that went into effect which I think is good for transparency, that requires us to, anytime an elected official or a deputy, a chief deputy, or if we were in a city manager, executive committee, or executive administrator type positions, has to be in a public meeting if their wage changes. So I'm not going to talk about any of that. We're going to have a meeting, another public meeting later on. But I do want to mention that for all employees of Washington County, there is in this budget a 2.5% cost of living increase. And there possibly could be some merit increase in there as well, but for sure the 2.5% for non-elected and appointed and deputies.
Okay.
That's applying too.
Quick
question regarding sales tax. It's impossible for us to determine whether a resident paid a sales tax or a visitor. It's just nearly impossible. We can kind of get to a number by the fact we know how many are visiting on any given day, etc. But can you just tell me what our total sales tax difference was between 24, and I know it's behind. You know, you don't get the fourth quarter numbers till what,
Like
February?
like where it's at right now?
Yeah, but comparison between the 2 years.
I wish I had that with me right now, but I don't.
Okay.
But
Okay.
when I did look at it today before this meeting, I was just looking at this year. We're tracking ahead. I think we had 13.75 budgeted, and we're gonna be probably closer to 15. So sales tax is scary to budget because if there's any blip in the economy, that's gonna be the first place that, people are gonna stop spending. So I don't like to go too hard on the sales tax reliability.
Yeah.
Property taxes, you're
steady,
reliable, so.
Well, and I appreciate that, Ryan, and I hear a lot of other counties, they like to project growth, so if they seen like a 5% increase last year, they predict there's gonna be, a 5% increase this next year, and our county and your predecessors have always done a really good job at just whatever we got last year, we'll put into the budget, and that has kept,
And when I
projections
talked
very
about those
accurate.
new growth numbers, those aren't projections, those are what we're getting this year.
Yep.
So
You're right.
I'm following what's worked in
Yep,
the
it
past.
has
so.
worked.
Commissioner Almquist, Ryan's office produces that, and we're up a little bit this year, as we've been most years. There's a steady growth in sales tax, but it's not an anomaly by any means.
Great.
Well, thanks, Ryan, appreciate this.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the tentative 2025 budget that has been presented here by our clerk auditor.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That took care of item 27, no?
Yep.
So, no, we still need to do item 27.
Or 28.
You mean
right?
28? Didn't we just do
Yeah,
27?
28. We need to go into public hearing right now.
Oh, right, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we open the public hearing for item 28, a hearing on the 2024 employee performance recognition stipends.
Second.
Motion and a second for that public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, so this public hearing addresses the proposal to grant eligible county employees up to $1,000 in performance recognition for 2024.
Any of our public that left,
Anyone
would like
wanna-
to come comment about this? I'll just
Okay.
make one comment. Mr. Chairman, this is something that we look at these budgets and we look at the discipline that it takes our employees, our department heads, and this has just been one thing that we've done a little end of year, and just to kind of recognize it takes an entire county to make these budgets work, and that's what the stipend represents, is everyone's hard work at the end of the year.
And really hard work to not just stay within the budget, but the only way we can afford the stipend is if they've come in under budget, which, being a very fiscally responsible America's county, we want to always be under budget, and by doing so, this is an incentive to do so.
I will say this, we're doing this because state code has changed and requires a public hearing for something like this. We've done this for several years now, and I can remember an elected official telling me after the first year some pretty emotional stories of county employees that this is what they needed right at this time of year.
Yeah.
Our employees work hard and
Grateful we can do it. Anything else from the public? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Our next item has been moved to the end of the agenda by a motion, which is to now close the commission meeting so that we can open the Board of Canvassers meeting. That requires a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we close our commission meeting and frankly, that we adjourn from our commission meeting.
Well, hold on. Did we want to adjourn? Because don't we have something to do with the RAP tax?
Yeah, you have the RAP tax items.
So we can't adjourn
we have the
if
RAP
we're
tax. Oh,
going
that's
to
right.
come back again, Devin, right? Because
Yeah.
we didn't notice it up, so we're just
So we've just closed.
recessing or just closing?
Just a motion to enter the Board of Canvassers meeting. and then we can
Mr.
take
Chairman,
that.
I move that we enter the Board of Canvassers meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ryan?
All right, we'll get right into this. We worked up until the last minute to try and, well, we did get it done. So we had 112,656 active registered voters. We had 99,137 votes with an 88% turnout.
Huge.
Wow.
Ryan, Melanie, is that about what you, I mean, that was maybe a little higher than we expected, or was that about right where you thought? Upper 80s? For presidential?
Still proud of it.
That's good.
That's,
Wish it was 100, but
Yeah.
that's good.
So of those, I mentioned the 99,137 that we counted. There were 4,348 ballots that were not counted, and I'll go through that summary. 220 were returned past the deadline, and I will say that I had some meetings with the St. George and Hurricane postmasters, and they really did a great job with holding. The week of the election, they didn't send anything to Las Vegas. They separated all that here and stamped it in-house. Prior to that, if it was sent before the truck left for Las Vegas, the processing center, it went that normal route and got postmarked in Las Vegas. But if it came in after the truck left, they took all those in and they stamped those there at the post offices. So
Awesome.
I was really pleased, although 220, you still want people that get it in on time. Okay, 1,699 were undeliverable. That represents people that move. And so ballots are not forwarded, and if that person's no longer living there, they get sent back to us. And the process that is in place is we take each one of those, scan it, and make them an inactive voter so that they won't be mailed a ballot again on the next election.
Gotcha. Good.
Uncured ballots, 1,981. Uncountable, 105. And provisional ballots that were not counted, 343. The provisional ballots cast were 2,985. Those are same day. They show up at the vote center to cast those, and it was a lot of work to get those processed. Of that 2,985, 2,642 were able to be counted, and 343 were not counted because 71 were the wrong precinct, 88 had an incomplete application, 11 of them had already voted. So that's a security measure that's in place that, say I get a mail-in ballot and I cast that, we give them voter credit.
did they just forget that already voted, or?
I think in their defense, which I would never recommend doing what they did, is that it takes time. If you have 30,000 ballots dropped on you on election day, it takes some time to verify those signatures. And so when they weren't seeing that their ballot had been counted, like on this ballot tracks and on the utah.gov, vote.utah.gov, they panicked and like, well, I'm gonna go down and vote in person. So anyhow, is that what you suspect, Melanie? for part of it. All right, insufficient ID, 163, and just other situations, there were 10. In-person voting was, for early voting, was 3,137, and on election day, we had 6,515, for a total of 9,652 in person. And I have to tell you, we kind of got to a place where I thought I could leave on election night, and I drove down to the Dixie Center, and I turned onto Convention Center Drive. It was 7:30 p.m., and it was a traffic jam getting onto Convention Center Drive. Took a while to get a parking spot. Got down there, the lines were outside the building, and I about just booked a flight out of town. Luckily, it worked out. We were able to get everyone in the building when the polls closed at 8, and everyone got to vote. But I'll tell you, if I'm around for another presidential election, we'll definitely have to look at having some additional polling locations. This year we have the Dixie Center as well as the Hurricane Community Center. So yeah, huge turnout, 10% in-person voting this go-round, which it's been 3%, 1%.
Special election this year, based on that.
All
Great
right.
job, everybody.
Yeah.
All of your volunteers and everything.
So sorry, what was that?
Insufficient ID back under ballots not counted. So they come up to you and they say, I insist on voting, and then yet their ID they presented didn't match signatures, or how's that?
So we let anyone that wants to vote, vote. And then they have, if they don't have, if their driver license doesn't, we let them bring that in. And if they may not show back up to bring evidence that they are who they say they are. And that would be some of those instances. Yeah.
Unlike other places where you can just vote, just because you have a pulse, which hopefully we'll work that out, but not here. Okay.
All right, I can get right into the results now, and we can be done unless you have any questions on those
Please do.
stats. All right, let's go to the president and vice president. West, and I'm going to butcher some of these names, but I'll do the best I can. West and Abdullah, 81. This one's our Lucifer Every Love, remarkably got 105. Skousen and Combs, 447. Stein and Ware, 294. Trump and Vance, 73,165. Oliver and Mott, 719. Harris and Waltz, 22,327. Cruz and Garcia, 105. The write-in candidates, Buddy Arden Wilkerson got 0. Steve Johnson got 1. Andre Ramon McNeil got 0. Sonsky Lauren Onik got 11. Future Madam POTUS 0. Chandra Yvette Irving 0. Jay Bowman and DED 1. Oh, that was a Bowman. Bowman and Bowman 1. That was our write-in candidates for president. U.S. Senate, Bowen, 7,085. John Curtis, 69,743. Carolyn Gleich, 18,607. Write-in candidate, Laird Fetzer Hamblin, 18. U.S. House District 2, Nathaniel Woodward, 18,559. Cassie Eastley, 6,973. Celeste Malloy, 66,517. Tyler Merced, 2,648. Governor and Lieutenant Governor, Cox and Henderson, 53,786. Williams and Williams, 1,996. King and Cummings, 15,977. Latham and Short, 2,781. Tomney Taylor, 322. Writing candidates Lyman and Clausen, 21,025. Tatua and Fisk, 23. Attorney General Derek Brown, 66,778. Rudy Bastia, 16,753. Andrew McCullough, 3,173. Austin Hepworth, 4,802. Michelle Quist, 3,473. State Auditor Tina Cannon, 72,185. Jeffrey Osler, 4,146. Catherine Botaz, 17,866. State Treasurer Miles Pomeroy, 3,037. Marlo Oaks, 72,854. Neil Hansen, 17,162. State Senate District 27, Darren Owens, 12,758. State Senate District 29, Deidre Reichart, 12,989. Don Ibsen, 42,143. State House District 72, Joseph Elison, 22,406. State House District 73, Colin Jack, 18,715. State House District 74, Neil Walter, 19,978. State House District 75, Walt Brooks, 15,580. Joshua Dutson, 4,183. State School Board 15, Joanne Britton, 77,539. County Commission seat C, Adam Snow, 71,658. Chuck Good, 19,782. County Assessor, Tom Durant, 77,639. County Clerk Auditor Special 2-year seat, Ryan Sullivan, 77,326. County Recorder, Gary Christensen, 77,353. County Treasurer, David Whitehead, 77,462. Local School Board District, Larry Myers, 4,400. Heidi Gunn, 8,670. Local School Board District 2, Craig Segmiller, 9,402. Local School Board District 3, Ron Wade, 11,830. The rest of these are judges. I'm just, the yes or the no. So Matthew Durant, yes, 64,392. No, 15,349. Ryan Tinney, 63,447 yes, 15,064 no. Keith Barnes, 64,268 yes, 14,585 no. Michael Fleming Levitt, 64,582 yes, 14,448 no. Ronald Reed, 64,167 yes, 14,461 no. We're not going to read Constitutional Amendment A because that was taken off the ballot. Constitutional Amendment B, 4 is 61,405. That was 61,405 for and 30,152 against. Constitutional Amendment C, 78,793 for, 13,445 against. Constitutional Amendment D is not on the ballot. RAP tax. This is what we've all been waiting for, right? It's the last thing on the agenda after this. 55,783 for and 37,532 against. So those are the results. I don't know if in our previous meeting, if I failed to thank all of our staff that worked on the budget. I think I did. But we really need to thank our election workers that worked tons of hours into the night, on the weekends, near death, sick. It was sight to see it. We had a lot of poll workers work this year, and we still felt like we were understaffed, but they were a great help, and I just can't express my gratitude of how hard the election department has to work at certain times of the year. It's crazy. We even pulled from other county departments that had to come help us get through it just because of the sheer volume.
It's a big year.
We had a couple members of the assessor's office help with the audit, and I mean, it was 5.5 hours of something I don't think they really enjoyed doing, but they stepped up and helped us. So, anyhow, do you have any questions of the Canvas results?
No, you guys do a great job, and I think it's been a few years, but there was a kind of a report released, the cost to the taxpayers for elections, and we were one of the lowest in the state. And that really had to do with, A, our great staff, B, that other county staff from other departments rush in and help. And so I think the citizens of this county, I hope they appreciate what it takes to put on an election and how hard it is to work. I will have this one comment. I appreciated when we uploaded to our own website the results from our county and then had the state independently have their own site. I understand they put pressure on us to kind of put it all in the same pot.
Well,
but,
you can probably blame me for that. It had a lot to do with those constitutional amendments. I just didn't want anything getting released on our site that shouldn't be. So we can look at that. I'm not going to die on that hill, but it looks pretty. The state site looks pretty.
I like our site, but yeah, it's state site's okay. It's okay, you know, but.
Good job.
Anyway,
Great job.
I was really glad to see how well you did, you know, at 77,000. Congratulations on the re-election.
I would like to concede that I got the least amount of votes of my unopposed county.
No, that's not true. That's not.
No, it is. The tax man, Tom Durant, he won. He got the most votes of any unopposed
Well, if I heard you right, you received more than my fellow commissioners.
Yeah,
so
he had someone running against him.
I did have an opponent, but still frame that with a big circle because it may be the only time. I don't know what our future holds, but I beat Adam Snow. I'll even sign it.
All right,
I can see Ryan beat me on this one.
I think we all owe Tom lunch since the voters obviously love their county assessor to give him the most
Well,
votes.
I can tell you for sure you got more votes than I did the last time I was on the ballot. So, of course, you're easier to like than I am.
I mean, come on, it's the county recorder. Why isn't the county recorder getting the most votes? Everyone loves Gary.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
Tom's easy to like too, though.
Yeah. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan, and to all of your staff.
We need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Canvas report as presented by Ryan.
I think we. Okay, yeah, and I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can we have a motion to close the Board of Canvassers meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we close the Board of Canvassers meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now we need to return to the wrap. Devin, you handling that?
To our regular commission meeting.
Yes, commissioners.
We're open our regular commission meeting again.
Okay, the RAP tax was first imposed back in 2015, so it's up for renewal. And in this election, our clerk auditor just summarized the results from the election. This ordinance that's before you would renew the RAP tax for another 10 years. And in the motion to approve, two findings are required, and the first is about the number of votes cast. And so you can just reference the summary report from our clerk auditor if you prefer. But just for minutes and for the record, total number of votes cast were 99,137. 4 votes on RAP tax, 55,783. Against, 37,532. And there were 2,642 provisional votes counted. So 2 findings. First is on the votes cast, and then second, an official finding that the RAP tax was approved by the voters.
Requiring only a simple majority.
Correct.
Okay. Lest anybody say that needed 2/3 or All right, very good. Can I have a motion on that item?
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-1278-0, an ordinance amending the reauthorization of the sales and use tax, known as the RAP tax, to fund recreational and cultural facilities and organizations with the two findings of the vote totals that have been adopted to the Board of Canvassers.
And a finding that the RAP tax was approved by the voters.
And the finding that the RAP tax was approved, and that is my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That exhausts our agenda. Meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS cable channels 22 and 108 HD, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 5:30 p.m. They're also available on demand at youtube.com/community education channel. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Oh my goodness.